And I don't know if you remember this, but for the 2012 Los Angeles Auto Show, I flew out there and had somebody else from the forum meet me out there as kind of my assistant. And we went to that show as guests of Porsche to cover the launch of the 981 Cayman. The new body style, the new engine that wasn't going to crater, all that goodness. While we were there, the person who had met me there, she told me, she goes, "Hey, I have a buddy that's working for this car company called Tesla. Have you heard of them?" I said, "Oh yeah, I think they make that Roadster, right?" And she's like, "Well, they brought a car here. They're not officially in the show. My guess is probably Elon didn't have the money to be in the show officially at that time, but they brought a Model S, uh, an early production Model S to showcase to other executives and members of the press and whatnot." She goes, "Hey, I can probably get you a ride in that if you want." And I'm like, "Okay, why not? We got time to kill. Let's go do that." So we go. I wasn't allowed to drive. I was in the front passenger seat. The person from Tesla was the driver. Apologies, don't remember his name. And I got in, and of course, the first thing I saw was that giant 17-inch vertical screen. And I'm like, "Whoa, what is this?" My first visual of that ever is it's still probably seared in my mind. And he's like, "Okay, let's go, for a ride." Now, this was not a performance version. It was, I don't know what, probably a 60 series battery. It was nothing, quote, fancy or special by today's Tesla standards. My expectation was it was going to be like a golf cart. It was going to be, loud motor whining, electric one. Nothing. Whisper quiet. And of course, my other assumption was it's gonna be like a golf cart. Golf carts aren't fast, that slow. When he put the accelerator to the, I would say gas pedal, but it's not gas, right, to the floor, and I'm like, whoa, back in my seat. I'm like, wow, this is really something. And then playing with the technology on the screen and seeing what it could do, and getting the various different things that we did driving around, and some of the stuff we did in traffic, is part of that test drive, just was seared in my head. And I came back from that flight probably talking more about the Tesla than I did the 981. I was already familiar with the Cayman, already familiar with Porsche, but this was totally brand new to me. And I thought, man, I really want a new Porsche, but I also really want one of these Model S's. And so I started reading about them, reading more about the company, and I was like, well, I don't know. We'll see if an electric car is something I can live with. And then they announced the Model 3. And I thought, bingo, there's a car. I've got a couple of kids that, I can throw them in the back. It's a nice little mid-sized sedan. I've owned some mid-sized sedans before. That'll be the car for me. And I put my deposit down. I literally stood in line after watching the release video, on, the night before. And I stood in line that next day, put my reservation in. And then one of the people at the reservation place had asked me, "Are you a current Tesla owner?" And I said, "No." They said, "Oh, well, if you are, you'll get your Model 3 sooner." And I'm thinking, I have an idea. What if I buy a pre-owned or used, Tesla at that point? Because here we're in what, 2015? I think it was March of 15 that the Model 3 got announced. It was either 15 or 16. Apologies, don't remember which, but I think it was 15. And so, I started doing research. It ended up buying a Model S, 2013 P85 Plus, still a terrific car to these days. I wish they would kind of make that style again with the staggered wheels and the different suspension, and the things that were supposed to be performance related. And flew to Florida, and with my kids and girlfriend at the time, we loaded into that Model S in Tampa, Florida, and we drove it all the way back over the course of, like, I don't know, 4 days, stopping in Atlanta to visit the aquarium and do stuff for the kids. Nashville for some things there, St. Louis for the arch, and ultimately back to Kansas City. By the time I got back to Kansas City, I'm like, well, this is easy to drive. It's no big deal to charge it. And this is the early days of the supercharging network, not today, where they're one on every corner, it seems. But got back, and then literally the next day took it to a car show. And of course, there's all these gas cars there, and I show up with a Model S, and people are like, "What is that thing?" My girlfriend at the time was like sitting in the front of it. We had the hood open, and it's just like empty. There's no engine, and people were like really puzzled, like, "What is this car?" And most of them had never seen it. And then I met somebody else there who also had a Model S, and we became friends. And then it was at that point I decided, hey, is there a Tesla club? Just because I was a member of Porsche Club, Jaguar Club, other car clubs. I'm like, is there a Tesla club? No, there wasn't, at least not in Kansas City, and there was no national Tesla club at the time.
So
Was
you were
almost,
bummed. So you were bummed, and you just went on about your way, learning
yeah,
that there was no club. You just right.
no, no, no. I said, yeah, better start something. If it doesn't exist, build it, right? Like, okay, I'm interested in it. I'm going to build it, if not for anything, me to gain more knowledge about my Tesla and the world of Tesla and the world of electric cars. Certainly, other people have similar interests, and let's go find those people.